Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. We are absolutely very honored to have past District Director Judy presenting for the Chief Judge training. And I think all of you on this call know who Judy is, so I'll not belabor the introduction. But before I do that, I'd like to have our District Director say hello. Terry.
Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to see all of your smiling faces. Here to learn about contest judge training. And we are lucky to have our Chief Judge, Judge Judy, here to share with us her experience and her knowledge. So I will turn it back over to you, Jennifer.
Thank you very much. And I also like to ask Jason, who is the CGD, to also say hello to the team.
Good evening, everyone. Looking forward to Judy's presentation.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you. And with that, all protocols observed, I am now ready to hand over the virtual lectern to Judy. Judy.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening. I do have a question. Let me see. Can I put it at, who changed that? Anyway, how many of you are here because you want to be a chief judge? Or, I mean, you're already scheduled to be a chief judge at an area or division contest? How many I need to get a chief judge for their contest? You see hands, there's 1, 2, excellent. I can't see everybody because you guys, someone put it on speaker view. So I can't, oh, there we go, gallery. So how many we got? Oh, Maria. Yep, she needs to get a chief judge. We might share a chief judge, Maria. We don't know yet.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Paul and Keith, excellent, excellent. Well, I've been having some computer problems, so I will do my best. I'm going to share my screen, but please, some patience would be nice. And I don't know if this will end up working. We'll try our best, but Chris, you might want to record a different one. We need your input, but you know, that's Toastmasters, we're flexible. So let me just share my screen. All right. Why? Okay, there we go. Can you see it? There we go. All right. Chief Judge, all our contests are virtual, as we know. And just going quickly, some of you know this from deck meetings, others, you know, this is the rule book we're using. Revision February 2021. Got a picture of, what is it, Mike Carr on the front. Because last year it was all Zoom meetings and our district is all Zoom meetings again. So that's the rule book. As chief judge, they gotta have a rule book. Get a copy or have it ready either on your phone, or I like paper because I'm old, but read it and know the rules. That's all we can ask. Now, what? How come I can't advance my slides? All right, I need someone's input. I'm pushing the thing and it's not working. It's not advancing. Push enter. With that.
Click your next. You did the right click, so next should, there you go. Otherwise, if you move your mouse on the lower left of your screen, little icons will show, and you can also use those to advance or go back.
Cool, thank you. All right, so for all virtual speech contests, just going through some of the rules. All contestants must be present in real time for live online contests. In other words, they can't send in a pre-recorded video or an audio or anything like that. They have to be there and doing it through Zoom. All contestants. I don't know why this won't work. Sorry. So to compete in the contest as chief judge, right, we're just gonna make sure, and usually the area or division director, the contest chair, depending what contest you're at, they check eligibility because they can go to the TI website and check eligibility. But for table topics to be eligible as a contestant, club in good standing, be a paid member of a club in good standing. For the international contest, paid club in good standing, be paid, but also beyond level 2 in pathways, or if you're a DTM and didn't even finish level 2 yet, you must have done over 6 speeches in the traditional program. So you would be eligible to be a contestant. Same to be a chief judge, a voting judge, or a tie-breaking judge. It's exactly the same as the international speech contest. Whereas you have to be a paid member from a club in good standing. You have to have earned a certificate in level 2 or above in a path, or 6 speeches in the CC manual above that.
Hey, Judy, this is
Yeah.
Keith.
Hey, Keith.
Are you saying that to compete in the table topics contest, a member needs to have completed level 2 in pathways?
No.
Oh, okay. I heard you connect that with table topics. My mistake.
No, the previous slide says for table topics, they just have to be a paid member
Okay, yep.
of a club in good standing.
Thanks, great.
But for international, you have to be beyond level 2 or beyond level 6 in traditional. Okay, and then same judges, to be a judge for either contest, you have to be at least a paid member, club in good standing, beyond level 2 in a path or over 6, and both contests, to be a chief judge, voting judge, tie-breaking judge, you cannot, at the division level and the district level, you cannot belong to any club that a contestant belongs to. You might not belong to the club they're representing, but if you belong to another club that they belong to, you still can't judge or chief judge or tie-break judge. Okay, you can be a timer though, but you can't judge. Makes sense in this case. So changes to rules, contestants. Contestants must not reference another contestant or a speech presented by another contestant from the platform at the same contest in which they are competing. So that is another added rule to be disqualified. So technically protests are on eligibility. Protests are filed by voting judges or contestants. It's only 2 people can file a protest, not an audience member, not contest chair. Of course, contest chair being an area or division director, they can say someone's not eligible because they're not paid or their club isn't paid or something, right? So just, they can't reference that. And we'll get back to that a little later. More changes to rules, and I just made it easier. A contest functionary, whether it's your contest toastmaster, a chief judge, a voting judge, a timer, a ballot counter, sergeant at arms, it'd be a test speaker, but we're not doing the evaluation contests this season, so test speaker doesn't matter for us. But no contest functionary person can be a contestant in any contest of the same type. Not in their district or any other district. So I can't be a timer or a ballot counter if I'm a contestant in a different area or different division. Or some of us, we have a gentleman from Australia, belongs to our club. But if he's a contestant in Australia, he cannot be a functionary in one of our contests. Okay, he can come and watch, but that's just a new rule. So we got to watch that too. Virtual speech contests. The area or division director, as we know, will set up the contest, whether it's Zoom or WebEx or what's that team one called. So all you got to do as chief judge, as far as, you know, the Zoom meeting or whatever, you just have to show up. You have to show up because it's the area director and the division director who get the judges. Area directors, there should be doing their second club visits. They know their clubs. They can pull 1 or 2 people to be a judge from their clubs. They get informed who the contestants are, right? But they need to share that with the chief judge. Who are the judges? Who are the timers? Division director too, find the timer. If you need help, I mean, the chief judge works with the area and division director. Figure out who's going to do what. Do you need help finding another judge? You may ask your chief judge, hey, do you know somebody who's qualified and who could be a chief judge? Because I have 4, but I need a minimum of 5 if your area, or you can have 12. You can have as many as you want, but you got to meet the minimum. Okay. And another thing, we may want to attend District 35 is having a full contest training, not just chief judges, but it'll be all virtual contest training on Sunday, January 30th. I don't know the time at this point. Maybe Terry, you know what time that is?
4 p.m. to 6 p.m.
4 to 6. Thank you. I'll throw that in there. So excellent. So where are we? Prior to, hold on. Prior to the contest date, I gotta move these things. The chief judge chooses the tie-breaking judge only at all times. I remember last year there was a contest chair who said, here's your chief judge, or here's your tie-breaking judge. It's like, I already chose my own. I'm chief judge and I don't share that with anybody. This is the TI rule. The identity of the tie-breaking judge is secret and known only to the chief judge. Okay, so you don't tell the area director, you don't tell anybody. You have that, but you assure the tie-breaking judge meets the judge's criteria, right? At least 6 speeches in the old program, at least 2, and doesn't belong to the same club as a contestant, all that stuff. You gotta check out. So here we are, we're the chief judge, but we know the timers need their timing form, 1 per contest. The ballot counters need the ballot counting form. The judges need the actual judging form, even though you're presenting them with a different ballot. We're going to get to that later. And of course, the tie-breaking judge needs his form, his or her form. So here's where you work as a chief judge or as area or division director. You work with the chief judge. Who is emailing forms to who? I would suggest, it's not a rule, but I would suggest that the chief judge emails the judging forms to the judges. So then the chief judge can say, and hey, at 6:30 is the judge's briefing. That's a half an hour before the contest. And I need you to email me back the judge's code of ethics form. So the chief judge, I think it just works out better if they email the judges their forms so that everyone shows up at the briefing. They already have their forms at their homes or in their car, wherever they're logging in from, they have their forms. So you have to hand them out and take more time at the briefing. Same with timers. Timers will have their timing forms. Are you going to email to the timers? You can. Or is your area director going to do that? Or is your division director going to do that? Now at district, the district chief judge does all of that, but that's only at district. District chief judge finds all judges, finds the timers, finds the ballot counters, gets them all the forms, get all that stuff. But it's the area directors who know their clubs. They know the contestants. They know they can pull judges, right? Same with division directors. Pull judges, get your area directors, give you 2 judges from each area, 1 from each area, what in your division, whatever you want. Work together to get everyone their forms ahead of time. That's the key to virtual, because when we had contests in person, right, you just hand them out. Here's your form, judge, hand out the forms, hand the timer forms to the timers, have the ballot counters, all that stuff. So we need to do all this ahead of time. It's easy, but it just needs to be done. All right, come on, now what? Here we go, timers. Just virtual timers must have 2 timers. Each timer has to have their own stopwatch. And you got to number them. Timer number 1, they mark down the time and they need to present it to the chief judge. Now, remember, depending, if the chief judge in the ballot counting room after the last speaker and the timer didn't get the judges, you don't want to do it on chat in the main room, because if the chief judge is already in the ballot counting room, they're not going to be able to read that chat. So what I did last year, which seemed to work, is I had timer number 1 just text me the time to my cell phone. They texted me after every speaker. So someone gave a speech and, okay, Keith spoke for 6 minutes, 40 seconds. I had it on my phone, and then I wrote down everybody's time. So then when I met with the ballot counters, if someone was disqualified due to time, we'd know. We'd know ahead of time, and I'd share that with the ballot counters. So timer 1 just times it and text or email, whatever you want, but I prefer text. Text the time to the chief judge. They don't show the colors. That's timer number 2. Timer number 2 also has a stopwatch, so they know when to show green, yellow, red. And they also have an extra card where they'll show 1 minute of silence in between speakers for the international and the table topics. But the timer 2 does not, they'll write down the time because they're doing it, but they don't need to inform the chief judge. That was timer 1's job. Okay. And if timer 1 gets an overage, like they got someone at, let's say, 7 minutes and 32 seconds, so they're 2 seconds over and disqualified, it's at that point where timer 1 will text, email, or call timer 2. Because if there's any discrepancy, if timer 2 has 7:30 and timer 1 at 7:32, they both have to have that speaker disqualified. Okay. So in that event, the timers contact each other to say, hey, what did you get? I got 2 seconds over. Make sense? So as we know, half hour before start of the contest in a breakout room, which is already set up by the area director and the tech master, and however they're doing their Zoom contest, you get a breakout room for the timers and the ballot counters and the judges, a breakout room for the contest toastmaster and the contestants to do their briefing. And then that same breakout room that the chief judge used the briefing for timers and ballot counters can be the same breakout room that the ballot counters and the chief judge go to tally the ballots. You can use the same one because once timers are briefed, you don't need that room again. You just use it as a ballot counting room if you want. So key here, like, you know, tie-breaking judge is a secret, so they don't show up at the briefing. They don't show up. They've briefed ahead of time by the chief judge, whether I briefed them yesterday or this afternoon and the contest is tonight. You just make sure they have the form, make sure they write down on the form first through last. That's the difference between a tie-breaking judge's ballot and a judge's ballot. A judge just goes first, second, or third. A tie-breaking goes first to last. So if you have 5 contestants, it's first through 5th, or 12, or who knows.
Judy,
Briefings-
there's a question. Keith, do you just want to shout out your question?
Yes, please. I want to go back to what you shared about the 2 timers corroborating time. So is that just your guideline, Judy, that the only time they would confer is if there is a question about timing disqualification?
Right.
Okay, so it's not TI
Because it's,
requirement,
because
it's just your
they're
guidelines, is
both,
that correct?
pardon?
It's not a TI requirement, it's just your guideline, is that correct?
You know, you brought that up. I've said, TI requires 2 timers,
Hmm.
right? I mean, assuming in person, kind of the rules are written for in person, more or less. But they do say one handles the lights and one handles the timing device. So, right, is that right? That's a good question.
That's my understanding.
Okay, right. They changed that. It used to be both had to match, but they changed that a few years ago. So I need to change that too then. That's a good point, Keith. Thank you. Because if you have only one timer timing and writing it down, if it were in person, that's the same thing what timer 1 is doing, right? Timer 1 is the one timer writing it down. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. Now, I mean, it could be as a nuance. I usually like for both of them to time just to make sure somebody didn't like forget to start their stop or that timing device on time and the other person did. So, but I guess it makes sense that the only time is really an issue is if there's a timing disqualification. You want to be sure they're both on the same page for that.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Right.
Thanks.
If they're both on the same. I mean, if there's a big discrepancy, then somebody just missed. And another thing to having 2 timers is maybe someone, they just got so involved that they forgot to start the timer. Well, then you got that second person. He's been timing because he got to show the colors. You just never know. We're all human, right? So things can happen that way too, which is a good reason to, if there's a disqualification, just to verify what the other one got. Right. So as you're briefing, brief time, what we say is just to make it easier, brief timers and ballot counters first, because that's just faster. Assure they got their forms. And if you know, if the contest Toastmaster sent someone to your room to give the speaking order, you can share that with the timer so they can write it on there, and the judges can write it on their forms. But if you don't have that, usually it's harder to do by Zoom. So just make sure they got their timers, make sure ballot counters are ready to show up at the end, show up at the breakout room, and then they're going to fill out, as you read the different judges, how they judged, they're going to fill out their forms in front of them. So just brief timers and ballot counters, then let them go back to the main room. Now you're with the judges, okay? Assure you collected the judge's code of ethics. That's a rule. And that's why if you emailed them a week before and said, here's your forms, get ready for Saturday, please, send them the code of ethics or give them the link from TI to TI website so they can fill it out and get it back to you. You got to make sure every judge signs that. They're qualified. They're not in the same club as another contestant. They're not a contestant in a contest elsewhere, whether in your district or a different district. All that's got to be signed by the judge. Okay. And then you discuss the judging guide, the judging criteria, how they choose a winner, right? The judges, it's per the contest rules and per the judging criteria on the ballot. And you can go through that. I have a little cheat sheet that I'm going to share that you can put on the website, but I can have Jennifer email it to all of you. That just explains what to do at the briefing. So you don't have to waste time here, but most of you know, but you can take that guide and give it to your chief judge if you're an area or division director and want to do that as well. So we're getting that. There's the International Speech Contest Judges Guide and Ballot, right? So because it's Zoom, they're going to fill this out in front of them, whether they're in their home or wherever they are, in a library, where at work, wherever they are, they're going to fill this out, but then they're going to put their answers on your Google Forms ballot because they can't hand this in to a ballot counter. And when you brief, on the other side of all judging forums are further things to go over with the judges, just to reconfirm rules and so on. Google Forms. Google Forms. Does anyone not know how to create a ballot on Google Forms? Do we all know how to do this? You can take your mic off. Yes, no, I can't see a chat. So
I will
Yes.
be guided in that, I'm hoping.
guided in that right now.
No, I've got resource people for that
Yes,
Excellent.
Larry, you will be helped.
in many ways. Thank you.
And this is because last year, as we all know, 2021 was all Zoom. These right here, this slide is from Terry, but she has it written out how to do it. And it's up to you. I can go to Google Forms. I think I gotta stop sharing this and go and show you if you'd like me to, or we'll just send you how to do, we'll send you the instructions that are written out. Any comments, any input on that?
That would be great. Thank you.
Which, going there or not?
If you send the instructions.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep, that's sufficient.
Excellent, excellent. So I can show you a little one, but at the end, when you get the ballot counters, you're going to access your Google Forms and share your screen with the ballot counters as chief judge, because you're going to have the responses from every judge. Every judge put who they voted in front of them on your Google Forms ballot, and then you got to access it so the ballot counters can tally. So you see it all together, all three of you, the chief judge and the two ballot counters will see it, and they'll fill out their forms and see who came out first, who came out second, etc. So once the winners are established, chief judge's job I found it was easier to text the contest chair the winners. So they got first and second place if the contest had 4 or less contestants, or first, second, and third place if the contest had 5 or more contestants. Right, so last year when when Terry was contest chair for district and I was chief judge, I texted her to her phone the winners. And then it's her job as contest chair to announce the winners, or she could have forwarded the text to the Toastmaster if she wanted the contest Toastmaster to announce the winners, but it would be totally up to the contest chair. So in that, it was up to Terry McGregor and division director. It's up to division director will get the text or the email, or you work with your chief judge. How do you want the winners presented to you? Don't do it on chat. Whatever you do, don't do it on chat. Because accidents are made. Oh, I posted it to everyone instead of to Jennifer. You know, so just don't do chat. Figure out how you want to receive as contest chair, how you want to receive the winners. And tell your chief judge, get that all. We've gone through this at deck, but for those of you who weren't there, there's only, as chief judge, there's only 5 ways a contestant is disqualified, right? We went through eligibility. Usually the area director checks, make sure they're eligible. Is the content is are they beyond level 2? And they can check through TI. There's a way to do that. Or are they a DTM or something? Then you know they're past level 6, right? Originality, that's something you don't know until you hear the speech. If greater than 25% of their speech is plagiarized, they're disqualified. And if they do take 25 or less, if they are copying some, they need to cite them. It's in the rules. You know, I can't just, you know, I can say Mark Twain said this. I obviously am telling people this is what Mark Twain said. I'm not passing it off as my own. So original, that could be a protest. Someone said, hey, you know, half their speech is somebody else's. Martin Luther King's. That's not theirs. That's not fair. They're disqualified. Time, right? Time. So we got time. If they're below or above acceptable time, they're disqualified. Like I said in the beginning, new rule, if a contestant references another contestant or another contestant's speech from the same contest, they're disqualified. And then the 5th way, which is something that the contest chair or contest toastmaster would notice, if a contestant misses the contestant briefing and they show up before the contest toastmaster has been introduced, they can go on. But if the contest toastmaster has been introduced already, they're disqualified. It's just another way of disqualifying. So there's rules in the contest rule book, but there's only 5 ways that somebody can be disqualified. So a rule is you must speak from the speaking area. Okay, that's a rule. Judges know that, right? But if a contestant goes outside of the speaking area, well, they're not disqualified because it's not one of the 5. But they'll be marked down by the judges. It's like, oh, you broke, no, you're not supposed to do that. Little negative here, right? It's just not it's a rule, but not a disqualification. And that's where people
Judy,
have gotten confused at times.
yeah, so Judy,
Yes.
let me interject. Apparently, from what we learned, I think, Terry, you can correct me because you are at the debriefing for region quarterfinals. They were saying some of the reasons why somebody can be disqualified in terms of the video is if they go out of the frame of the video.
No,
Was that your understanding?
no, they're not disqualified by that.
I mean, the video is not.
Oh, you mean the
accepted,
whole
yeah,
body?
yes.
Their
Yeah,
whole body?
yeah. There was something about the going outside of the frame of the video speaking area. As
They
part of
would
the
be marked,
conversation.
they would be marked down. But they
Yeah.
won't be disqualified. You can only be disqualified by these 5 things. So stepping out of the frame. So if I go like this,
Mhm.
I can't be disqualified. You didn't see the rest of my messy room, but I'm not disqualified. I might be marked down. The same as we offer contestants when you gesture for a Zoom contest, don't gesture outside of the frame. And they're not going to be disqualified, but you know, they might be marked down, right?
Okay, I will confirm that because they actually talked about that quite. I don't know
It has
whether
to
you
do with
remember that.
setting, it has to do with setting the speaking
Yeah.
area. So
Mhm.
if we say the speaking area is you have to remain within the frame and they go without. I don't know what the rules say about, off the top of my head, about leaving the speaking area.
You're
Mhm.
not.
It
that's-
is not a disqualifying factor.
It would just
So
be marked
if you
down.
wanted to do your entire speech and you're not on the camera, that is your choice. But how does the judge see you? Judge you for your physical, your gestures, all of that stuff. When you are at the district level contest, when you are recording for the international speech, that could be different because you have to record
Yeah.
and you are only recording what is in your camera. So again, if a
Yeah.
contestant decides to move off screen, that's their choice. It is still not a disqualifying factor because several contestants in the past, they've utilized that as part of their speech, that they've dropped below the camera level and popped up because that's a part of their speech, part of their gestures.
Exactly.
But
It's
yes,
not one of the
it's
five.
not a disqualifying factor.
Okay, I will send the rules as we got them, and then we can translate them verbatim.
Well, this is the rules. It's
Mm.
It might be-
2022.
It's
might
the
be
video
June.
guidelines, not the rules. It's actually not the rules for the judging qualifications. It's actually a video guidelines because we're asking the question, under what circumstances can the video be disqualified? Because if the video is not shown at the region quarterfinals, then we might as well have been disqualified the person, unfortunately, because
It
they'll
is
not be
my-
able to advance.
It is my understanding, the online speech contest best practices little book that they
Mhm.
made,
Mhm.
as I understand from last year, that wasn't a disqualification either. It's best
Okay.
practice to stay center in your frame and don't gesture out. But if you don't, you're just marked down.
Okay, I will.
You just hurt
confirm that.
yourself.
I'll confirm that. I'll confirm that because we want to make sure that our people going from the district level at least get a chance at the region quarterfinals. That's my goal.
It looks like it might be only at the region quarterfinals. If the recording does not show the person,
Yes.
then the video is thrown out.
Yeah, it's the video
It's
thrown out.
not
That's
a
it.
disqualifying
Yeah,
rule in the rule book.
correct.
So
Why
there's a
don't we
difference.
move
So
on with the training?
we'll just,
Sure.
Once you
we'll,
get
Say they're not gonna win, so they're not gonna go further if they're not in the, because they said we have to be close enough where we can see your facial expressions, all of that for the quarterfinals.
we can.
They
clarify
see
that.
all that, so you can't give a speech where I'm standing way in the corner of my room. You couldn't even see my mouth move. I mean, I could do it, but there's no way I'm gonna win. I won't
How-
be
how-
disqualified, but
How about at
I
this
do my own
point,
speech like this. I'm not gonna be disqualified, but it's pretty stupid. I'm not even gonna place if I do that.
okay, I'm gonna break in here. Let's
Yeah,
hold off on
I'm
this
pretty much-
discussion. We'll get the information from TI with the guidelines for the video recording, if that is a new disqualification or a suggestion. And we can email it out to everyone and we can share the information instead of debating what's right, what's wrong right now. So let's go back to the training, Judy, please.
Well, you know
Thank
what?
you.
This is my last slide. That's why I was talking a little more about that. Sorry, is because, here, like I said, we have the online speech contest best practices, which is another little tiny booklet that TI put out. We have the speech contest rule book. Oh, I didn't change the date. Sorry. It's 2021 to 22, the one with Mike Carr and a Zoom frame in it. And we have our district where everyone helps whatever you need. You can go to anybody for anything. We all help each other out. That's the best part about this district, right? That's what I always liked about it.
Mhm.
So really, that's all I have as far as because we didn't need to go to the how to create a Google Forms ballot. Any further questions?
Judy,
Yes.
I have a question. Could you go over the eligibility rules for particularly the chief judge for example, for an area contest?
Well, Chief Judge, sure. Let me just back it up.
Yeah, it's on one of your earlier slides.
That's. Sorry about that.
Oops, sorry.
To be a chief judge, voting judge, right? You have to be a paid member of a club in good standing. So the club has to have 8 or more members to be a chief judge. Same as a contestant for either contest. You have to be paid member of a club in good standing. If you're in a club that has less than 8 members, that club cannot offer a contestant to the area unless they get 8 by the time of the area contest. That's allowed. That's in the rules. If they get 8 members by the time of the area contest, then they can send somebody to the area. But that 8th person, their money and their name has to be at TI. It's not someone gave me a check this morning, so now TI doesn't even know about it. And the area contest is tonight. Okay, that 8th, that whatever makes you 8, the 2 more or the 1 more, it has to be a TI prior to the area contest, and then you can send somebody.
Send somebody as a participant,
and then
as a judge also, as a contestant or a judge, right?
correct.
Right.
Same thing. And but okay, let's say an area director especially, they can't get a contestant from this club because they have only 7 members or 5. So they're not in good standing. But they can get people from this club to be a timer or a ballot counter. Why not? Get them involved. Get them to show up. I mean, they don't have a contestant. That's unfortunate, but they're still part of the area, right? Let them contribute. So you're right, back to judges. And so they have to be club in good standing and a paid member, and they have to be earned certificates in level 2, 1 and 2 of any path, or have completed at least 6 speeches in the competent communication manual from the traditional program, what we used to do prior to pathways. So like there's some older DTMs that they haven't finished level 2 yet, but they're definitely qualified to be a contestant or a judge because they are beyond 6 speeches in the very first manual. They already have their DTM. You know they're beyond 6, right? But someone might not. Someone may be an ATM Gold or some of the old hierarchy where if they're beyond 6, they can still compete even though they didn't finish a level 2 in a path yet. And currently, I'd say I'm in 2 paths, but 1 path, I'm only on level 1, but I did 2 electives from level 4 already because you're allowed to now. So even though I did 5 speeches, I still didn't finish level 2 yet because I jumped ahead. So, you know, technically it's a rule. They got to be beyond level 2. They got to earn that completion certificate. At the division level and district level, no judge, chief judge, voting judge, tie-breaking judge can belong to any club that a contestant belongs to.
I have a question, Judy. If I'm a contestant in the area and I lost, can I then help out at the division level?
The way the rule is written, I would say yes. Because you're no longer competing.
Okay.
And the pardon? Any other input on it? It doesn't say that directly, but the way it's written, you're no longer a contestant. You're done.
Okay.
Any other input on that? Do we agree?
Yeah, that makes sense. You're not an active contestant.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. And in some places it's hard to get people, so that just helps make it easier, doesn't it? Oh, I need a timer. Oh, dang, you're a contestant in Northern. I can't be a timer for Central. You know, it just, darn, but that's a rule. It's a new rule now. But if I lost, then I suppose I could.
Yeah, not to make it too wonky, though, the one potential caveat would be if you finish second or third, and then the person ahead of you can't participate, and so you end up participating. So that's something to keep in mind.
That's a good point too. Right.
This is a weird opinion, but if anybody's participating in a Toastmasters contest and they are a contestant, nobody's a loser. You didn't lost. You may not have done that well that particular day, but you are not someone who loses. We don't have losers in Toastmasters.
True, true. But also Keith brought up an excellent point. He's right. If you placed first, second, or third, and whoever won first, let's say you placed second, whoever won first, let's say they got sick, or by the time of the area contest, they're in the hospital, or they got in a car accident, and you have to step up. Oops. So yeah, I guess if you place first, second, or third, I wouldn't, because you never know, right?
What I advise people, what I advise people to do is to mention that. So if someone says, "Hey, Keith, can you serve as a judge?" I would say, "I can, but just so you know, I did place second or third, so there is." So you probably want to get a backup or something like that, just to give them that consideration.
Yeah. And then there's how many, there's also looking at, there's so many people in this district. How many people do we have? How many members do we have in District 35? I mean, if a second place person he's the only one in the world you can get to be a timer, there's got to be somebody else somewhere out of what? How many people we have? 3,000? 2,800?
And the nice thing now with virtual contests, we can reach out to members in other districts to help us with our contest.
Right. And if they're not contestants, they could be a judge, I suppose. If they're not contestants in their area or district or whatever. But they could also always be a timer or a ballot counter or a sergeant at arms. We need a sergeant at arms or someone to call the table topics people to the stage in order. It's not as critical as evaluation where you don't have to watch them, but you just gotta send them all to a breakout room, the table topics contestants, so they don't hear the question, right?
Judy, for a online contest, are we still recommending that someone act as a technical master or Zoom master?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, just to handle things and mute everybody. And I mean, the contest Toastmaster will be too busy to do that. The chief judge can't do that. because they'll be outside of the main room a lot of times with briefings and ballot counting. So yeah, if someone just assures that, and when someone's speaking, everyone's muted and just kind of handles that. Now, I don't know if, depends how they set it up. Are they gonna allow where you have to be allowed into the room, or just open it up where you just join? I guess that's up to the contest chair, how they do that. So if they're allowing people to register before they enter, so we don't get Zoom bombed like we did at last convention last year, then someone's got to watch for that, because the contest Toastmasters to be too busy talking, you know. So that's a good reason to have a tech master and watches that, make sure everything flows, make sure the breakout rooms are there. And if someone doesn't miss something and has to know who to contact, oh, how do I get to this breakout room? I don't have the availability, or I'm using my phone and I don't see where the link is, or something. There's always something.
Hey, Judy, would you go over again the procedure if there is a protest? What we're supposed to do as chief judges?
The procedure if there's a protest?
Right.
Well, if there's a protest, normally in person, when we were in person, I tell the judges to write on their envelope, protest. So when the ballot counters collect their envelopes, it said protest, and they wrote it on, put it on a piece of paper. Now I will tell them to put it on their ballot. When they go to Google Forms and fill out the ballot and they sign it, they're going to sign their name and then write protest. Okay, so we're going to see that when we open the ballot. And the rules are, once there's a protest, then you open it and you read it and you decide if it's valid. You as chief judge decide if it's a valid protest. If so, then in the rule book, there's rules what to do. Then you call all the judges, or you call all the judges back to the breakout room. You call the person to defend himself and the person who made the protest. And then the voting judges vote. And it's written out in the speech, the exact order and way to do that. And it is the contest Toastmaster who can tell, when they brief the contestants, how are they going to file a protest? You file a protest with the chief judge or the contest chair. So usually judges will go to the chief judge, and the contestants have to, if they don't see the chief judge in the audience, because I already went with my ballot counters to my room, then they go to the contest chair, who's the area director or the division director, or the PQD. If it's that district, then it would be Jennifer. See?
So a couple thoughts on that. If it's a protest based on content, the chief judge may not necessarily know that. So I don't know. I'm not comfortable with that. The chief judge decides if the protest is valid or not.
No, the chief judge is not deciding if it's right or wrong, if it's valid. So for instance, this was 3-4 years ago as chief judge at Steinhoffels, and some judge wrote protest on his ballot, right? So I opened it up and it said, this lady who was in 2 contests, she stated in a speech or I don't know how, because it's a protest, so she wasn't a bio yet. She stated that she only belonged to her club for 2 months. So this judge said she would not be qualified for the international speech contest. She is ineligible based on that. Okay, so I opened it up. I'm the chief judge. I looked at who, I didn't know this lady. Well, I mean, she wasn't from my club or nothing, but I looked it up and she belonged to two clubs. She was like, at the time, like an advanced leader silver. But the one club she was representing, she only belonged to for 2 months. So it would have been impossible for her to be eligible technically if she was a brand new Toastmaster, but she had an ATM silver and had moved here from a different state and was very well qualified. So that protest wasn't valid.
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't have to call the judges and call, that wasn't valid. So make sense now?
From that standpoint, yeah. So do we have the judges talk first and have whoever the protester say, hey, here's why I'm protesting, so the judges decide, yep, let's ask the contestant, especially if it's content.
If it's content, yeah, then they gotta show. I mean, it's not that the protester will have the book, here, like here's what Mark Twain speech on waterfalls, and they did the whole thing verbatim. So you have to get the protester, well, what did they mean? And then if it's still valid, right? Because they could rescind or repeal it or whatever, their own, depending what they're saying. Then you call that other person, the contestant, back to the ballot counting room and they present their case. That's how it works.
Yep, that makes sense. Okay, thanks.
Time is it? I have 8 o'clock right now. Is there any further questions or comments or something you would like added to this presentation? I'm sorry, my computer's been acting strange, so it wasn't a clean sailing through. I can stop share though.
If you're going to give this presentation again, it might be helpful to add a slide about that procedure for protests, because that trips up a lot, especially newer chief judges.
Okay. Well noted. Thank you. I'll put that in. Handle protests.
Hey, Terry, quick question for you. You're having the area directors confirm all their contestants are eligible in terms of pay dues and all of that, right?
That is part of the responsibility of the contest chair, yes.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Eligibility. Mhm. And they received the same training, so they heard that from the Judge Judy herself.
Awesome.
Keith, I just found it, by the way, if you have the rule book, it's on page 15.
Okay, I'll look at it.
The contestant must be given an opportunity to respond to the voting judges. And a majority of the voting judges must concur in the decision to disqualify. That's someone that the contestant must be given an opportunity to respond to the voting judges. So before a contestant can be disqualified on the basis of originality or for referencing another contestant's speech or eligibility, they're not eligible. That's just done. there's nothing to argue about there. So it's really the protest against, did they reference another contestant or another contestant's speech? Or on originality, right, plagiarism?
Cool, thanks.
Okay, with that, it's 8 o'clock. I'd like to end the formal presentation and then invite folks to stay on and ask some more questions and dialogue. Thank you so much, Judy, for really your heart in this Chief Judge training and your consistent leadership in this. We make sure that at least at our district level, no contestants are disqualified, and we put in our best foot forward at international. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. My pleasure.